Looks like we got a problem, Houston. My wheel fell off. I didn't even realize it until it fell off. Reason being, the bearings disintegrated because I drove it in the pond a couple times last year to rescue some stuck cars and trucks. Well, as I mentioned before, water in wheel bearings kills them. So I've got the axle shaft on the spindle all cleaned off. Got the bearing hole cleaned out on both sides and the grease and broken bearing bits out. Now I have to show you how to get a wheel bearing off, or the pieces. This is the same as you do it for, like, for example, the rear of a car, or if it's a rear-wheel drive car, how to get the wheel bearings out of the front rotors. Luckily for me, when you have a tractor, it has the option of lifting up any wheel you want to, you know, so you don't have to use a jack. Cool. So first thing you notice, we're now looking at the back side of the wheel. The big bearing has a notch in the hub on both sides. That's your removal notch. I'll show you how that works. You get a steel bar or a big bolt with a flat end on one end. Then you flip your wheel or tire over so that the bearing hub is facing towards the ground. Now you use your big hammer, steel bar, drop it down each notch, give a few taps on one side and a few taps on the other side, and keep tapping back and forth with your hammer until you knock the bearing out. Save the old piece of bearing, you need it to reinstall the new one. So you hold your steel bar in an angle like that and start whacking. That only took about 8 whacks and my bearing piece is out. Oh, there it is. Now put that aside for reinstallation to put the new one in. There's your new parts. The new piece we got to press in. New bearing hub and race. And axle dust seal. So just make sure there's a bit of grease around the surface and set that in the hole with the widest portion always facing out. Then you set the wheel flat on the ground, clean off this piece of shit, and you use this to reinstall the bearing, and you also put it in with the widest piece facing outwards. And then you put a block of flat steel or something on it and tap it in with the hammer. Now I have a perfect installation tool. Set that on there. Maybe that way works better. And start whacking. Have to tap it evenly to get it down square. Perfect. Gotta love it. Now with the same method on the other side, use your flattened end steel bar, catch the ridge of the other bearing, and knock it out. Pack the sucker with lots of grease, and with your hands pack that with lots of grease too. Of course, it's got a big cavity in there to hold grease, and you're all set for installation. The inner part of the bearing is in the hole. Now pre-grease the rubber part of the new seal and install it, and tap it on square too. Well, got the other part of the bearing packed and ready for installation. Put the washer on, and your big, called a castellated nut. Castellated part always goes outwards. Then the first setting you make it is a little bit tight. Then you rotate the wheel a few times. Shut it off. Then I back the bearing off to make it looser. To the first cotter key hole lines up, I put the cotter key in, bend the end, and that's how you set the wheel bearing to have the right amount of play, which is almost no play, but you never run it with a tight wheel bearing or it'll get hot, it'll burn it out. So now time to put the dust cap on, and we're all done.